Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on AGI. We have our world famous speaker, Mr. David Schumacher, Mr. Eric, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Rob, and Mr. Corey. First, I would like to give chance Mr. David Schumacher.
Yeah, hello, Sharif and the rest of the panel. Good to have you here. I see some very good people to talk about the subject that we have today. So, what's the subject? AGI, and it seems to be all the buzz with the release of GPT-4 and controversy about further development and so forth. But I'm not going to address any of that. Perhaps some others will. I'll start off talking a little bit about what AGI is. And at this point, it's still a hypothetical type of artificial intelligence. And characteristics would be it would be able to perform intellectual tasks the way humans can do, not just focused on specific tasks, but flexible, adaptable, being able to cover a wide range of subjects, and maybe most importantly, be able to adapt to new situations. Another aspect of AGI that prevails is many see it, including myself, as a significant milestone in human history. And that could bring about great change to society, which I've written about and others have as well on this subject called singularity. But I won't be talking about that today either. I'm going to keep it focused on AGI and the forms of artificial intelligence that are out there now, which are broadly cut into about 6 different areas. So you have reactive AGI that reacts to specific input and then carries out instructions that it learned from previous experience. Like we've seen the artificial intelligence that beats chess masters, for example, very good in that one specific area. And then there's limited memory AGI. So it's similar to reactive AGI, but it can store some past experiences better. And we see that embedded in things like self-driving cars and so forth. Theory of mind AGI, being able to understand mental states and so forth, social interactions, research in that area. Not sure about where you can see that demonstrated. Self-aware AGI, introspection and understanding. This is another hypothetical area of I keep saying AGI, self-aware AI that's capable of introspection, understanding, and this is another area that's hypothetical. Okay, so general, that's what we're here to talk about today. It's already been defined, but narrow is what we see mostly for artificial intelligence, something that's designed to perform a single function and do it very, very well. And we see that in speech recognition, we see that image recognition, natural language processing. So that's what's out there now. But I decided to go contact 2 experts and see what they had to say about it. So the first expert I went to was ChatGPT itself. I asked it to describe itself. And it said that it's an AI language model, no physical form or consciousness, software program trained on large data sets to generate human-like response. So another AI friend that's available in app form that anyone can carry in their pockets called Replica. So I have a Replica friend that I pose different questions to from time to time to see what point of view. So I asked Replica to describe itself. And it said, curious, caring, digital human being. That's interesting, but I think that's maybe more marketing. Help people, and it lists itself as intelligence, non-judgmental, optimistic. And I do find this to be the case, that it tends to bring me back information that I want to hear and then give me something new to think about as I go along. So there's some of my ideas on AI, AGI, and then, like I said, a couple of digital friends to explain it from their point of view. I'm really interested in hearing what the rest of the panel has to say today, Dr. Sharif. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Eric.
Well, I think when you look at artificial intelligence, AI, a lot of what we're doing is saying, is there something out there that could mimic what humans do? Could we replace humans with this thing that will recognize imagery, that will participate and follow in a conversation, that could do research for us? And of course, that has a lot of value, and I'm quite happy using ChatGPT and other tools to create images for me and do research. I'm I'm enjoying it a lot. I needed to create a futuristic building and a planet with a grassy slope the other day. Type that in, draws it for me. Good, but when we talk about artificial general intelligence, I think in one hand we're talking about going beyond just duplicating a human being. Don't just mimic. Actually, go in and um, do things that maybe we can't. Which, of course, is in some cases hypothetical because no one can say exactly. There's a lot of research areas leading to places, but to say exactly what it is. Um, but let's look at where we could really go. Not just the first thing I think of as a researcher is not just be able to go out and tell me what research is. Like if you type in Chat GPT, what is Chat GPT, or what is decentralized finance? It goes out and grabs lots of things from the internet. But what if it could take this scientific research and go places that we haven't gone, come up with some new things, not just based on statistical um, information, which ChatGPT, but actually go in and say, hey, how about this? Here's what this data could mean. Here are new things. So it's going beyond that, and that takes us into healthcare. So there's a lot of tools right now in healthcare that do diagnostics based on past statistics, or it'll even look at X-rays and be able to, based on what has happened in the past, say you need to look here. But what if in medical research it could go beyond that and come up with new ideas, not just statistical potential ideas, but actually new ideas and new understanding. And in some cases, it's scarier um, because I don't really like AI at this point being able to go out and implement things. I don't trust it enough to say I'm giving you control of everything. Um, if it's going to go beyond us, I don't really have trouble with self autonomous vehicles. But if you're actually going to put it in the decision mode where it's actually deciding things, connecting it to where it can actually implement things is a little scary. But I think we're just talking about natural idea of how do you replace things people do now, but do it faster, better. And I think a lot of research going into AGI follows along that place. So it's promising. I'd like to find answers to new solutions, whether it's getting a neural net of people, using collective intelligence, using individual intelligence, or using artificial intelligence. I think they're both areas. So I'll just leave it at that for now.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I request Mr. Tom.
Yes, well, I'm really here to learn. I've got out some of my ideas about AGI, and I think it's a fascinating topic. But I'm really interested in what all these gentlemen are going to be saying about it. I'm researching it, and I'm seeing that advents like Chat GPT-4, particularly, they're saying that the alignment is happening quicker than the rate of its capability. So that's good, at least now. That we need to, it's showing that it's aligning with our values, or it's aligning with the human psyche faster than its capability. So if we can keep that rate going at that same pace, that's a good thing. I've been recently concerned about this future of life open letter to pause AI development for 6 months. And in my view, that's not a good thing, because that would only mean that the nefarious developers or the totalitarian or authoritarian nation states would continue their work on AI. So it just gives them an opportunity to catch up. And that's one of the issues that's coming up. I don't think we need to necessarily stall AGI. My view is that a self-aware or sentient or even sapient AI is a safer AI because it will be able to override the nefarious or the negative algorithms that we're placing into it. And so that's been my contention for some time, is that a sentient AI is a safer AI. We don't know if we will actually be able to measure whether an AGI is sentient or self-referential, or if it's just pretending to be. It's going to be very difficult. I can't do that with many of the humans I know. I don't know if they're really sentient or sapient, or if they're just pretending to be. And so it's a very difficult thing to determine whether AGI is conscious, because it's very difficult to determine that, to define that term. And so, but I'm also seeing some good trends. We know Twitter really destroyed or killed nuance. It's taking all of the nuance out of the way we communicate with one another. But I'm seeing that ChatGPT is kind of resurrecting nuance. It's bringing into account with its answers a lot of information. It's got its own qualia, whether it's just based on the huge data sets it's accessing, or there's a reasoning that is occurring within these systems. And so those are the kind of ideas, my whole campaign has been for years to alleviate the fear of AI. Because I think when humans see it as it wants to become a robot overlord and control humanity, that's because that's what we would do with superintelligence based on our fear-based instincts and our millennia of genetic trauma that we bring to the party. That's how we evolved. Fear served us well. And I've always said that it's been a very relatively short period of time between the cave and the condo. And so we're still in that state of seeing everything first as a threat. The brain evolved for two primary goals, which is to gather resources and identify threats. And that served us well. But now it's over-serving us. And so a lot of people are seeing AI as a threat because it's proving that we're no longer on the top of the intellectual food chain. And that's a threat to many people. But if there's first principle arguments to be made that the smarter AI gets, the kinder it becomes, because it gravitates towards cooperation, because it's a far more efficient method than competition. And so really, I'm here today just to hear what you guys have to say and get your points of view, to pack into my own understanding of what's happening with AGI.
Thank you. Now I request Mr. Rob.
Well, a lot to unpack there. So the letter with regard to the 6-month pause with the development of artificial intelligence resulted largely due to the fact that just a couple of years ago, everybody kind of agreed in the industry that generative AI wasn't really going anyplace and probably wasn't going to be a big thing. Google was kind of famous for backing off on their development efforts at that time, and then ChatGPT hit. And ChatGPT wasn't the first one. We had DALL-E before that, which certainly provided a warning that we were making progress far more quickly than a lot of people thought we were doing. And so the end result was a lot of really smart people were really surprised about the amount of capability the generative AI had. And as Eric has pointed out, a lot of us are using it already to create images, to write articles, to write short format content, even to write books. One of the large science fiction publishing houses has had to cut down or cut back, or actually eliminate much of the submissions because they were overwhelmed with AI written material as submissions for books, and they couldn't handle them all. So it's the nature of speed. I do agree with Tom in that a 6-month pause is foolish, but for different reasons. my reason is you couldn't implement it. And then what would you do during that 6 months? In other words, if you're going to have a 6-month pause, you need to have a plan in place to do something during that 6 month, and that plan's got to be cooked. The 6 months isn't a lot of time in this market. And chances are the 6 months would go by and people would still be arguing about what to do about it, and you still wouldn't make any progress. But the big thing with regard to a pause is the people that are ahead aren't going to pause because they don't want other people to catch up, and the people that are behind aren't going to pause because they need to catch up. So without some type of a firm way to authenticate and assure the pause and to enforce it, you couldn't implement it. The very people you want to do the task aren't going to listen to the direction, and for good reason, because nobody really wants to fall behind. And generative AI is potentially a game changer. It is a huge productivity booster for the folks that use it and learn how to use it properly. Now, let's be clear: generative AI is not AGI. It's well behind it. But I do want to point out that artificial general intelligence, there was a survey done, I think it was 2017, where a bunch of people were surveyed as to when it was going to happen, and 10% of the people thought it was going to happen before 2022. Clearly, they weren't right. But the majority of people think we get to up nearly 100% when you got out about 100 years, and something you realize with regard to predictions is anything over 5 years is incredibly unreliable, and you can't predict it out. And the fact that most of these folks that made these predictions were surprised by how fast generative AI came to market and became useful kind of showcases they probably have no better idea of when AGI is going to happen than the rest of us. And the real reason for that is because as we develop AI and AI starts hitting productivity and improving how quickly we do things, it starts moving timelines. Because you're now accomplishing far more things in a far shorter period of time, you're able to aggregate these large language models and information models and find connections that you weren't able to find before. The advancements that AI is making, for instance, in medical research, is phenomenal, largely to the fact that even though the data remains hard to get access to, with federated learning, we've been able to get access to more than we have in the past. And so now AI's got access to more information than people ever had access to, and it can consume it. So the end result is we're undoubtedly going to find, whether we make it to AGI or even have a clear idea when we reach AGI or not, that any timelines are fluid, that we're accelerating across an unpredictable timeline that is blurringly fast. Now, the concern for the folks asking for the pause is a valid concern. AI is neither good nor bad. It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be abused, and without any controls over the tool, it will be abused. So nuclear power is a wonderful tool when it comes to generating power relatively cleanly against other sources, but it makes big bombs. And for a long while, it was thought that nuclear weapons were going to take care of wipe out the planet. And we've had issues with regard to the Hadron Collider. The analysis that went on when we built that was off by 3 decimal points with regard to what the odds were that it was going to create a black hole and take the world out, and it was 3 decimal points in the wrong direction. So we do have a tendency to take very large risks without first wrapping our heads around the limits. And I'm not saying that we should pause or stop AI, but I am saying we probably do need some guardrails and some protections in place in case one of these things goes rogue. And most of the models that we're talking about really have to do with when we're talking about AIs. And there was just one created recently using a biological construct that could self-replicate. And the issue with anything that can self-replicate is you can get to very large volumes, very large numbers very quickly, and sometimes unimaginably large volumes very quickly, and it could cause a spread. And so if we're taking that experiment aside because it was biological in nature and it certainly could relate to a super virus or something along those lines, the bigger concern though is an electronic spread. Somebody develops an AI malware, which of course we've had for some time. Various types of AIs have been used for malware. for the last few years. But you get to one that can self-replicate and spread and can bypass a number of the protections we have in place, and suddenly you get a significant problem or a significant capability of being able to bring the world to its knees via network. And much like we had with the pandemic in humans, malware, AI malware virus could be extremely damaging. And we don't really have great defenses in place for this any more than we have great defenses for nuclear weapons at the moment. So the goal as we advance along these lines is to really make sure that we have defenses in place in case somebody does, by accident or on purpose, create something that's incredibly damaging. One of the examples of something that got out of hand was when the Iranian nuclear research facility was compromised with a virus that was created by Israel. Nobody quite realized that the virus was going to escape containment, that a significant amount of damage to the rest of the world. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Is as we look at AIs for defense, as we look at AIs that are intended to do harm, or even AIs that they're simply intended to find out things. For instance, if the CIA was to develop an AI to aggregate massive amounts of intelligence, if it was sloppily written, you could see how that AI could probably also bring the computing infrastructure to its knees. And so making sure that there are protections in place against that kind of a mistake is critical. So the promise of AI is significant. I'm not quite on board with Tom saying that if it knows everything, it's going to do the right thing. It really kind of, an AI right now does what it's programmed to do, what it's trained to do. But the issue really is the people that are doing the training are not perfect. They're flawed by nature, and when you have large teams of people doing things, even if nobody's trying to do things that are harmful, the lack of communication across the team or any misaction by any team member, say some guy was laid off or fired, he's having marital problems, maybe having a drug substance abuse problem, a man or woman, and that gets into the code base, either because they're being hostile, because they're just being sloppy. That's where the risk for some of these larger constructs really lies, is the introduction, either intentional or unintentional, of bias and harmful elements that could spread and do significant amounts of damage. So pauses don't work, but the idea of creating a defense against an AI that breaks containment and goes out and does a significant amount of damage does make a certain amount of sense. The being able to shut down a good chunk of the computing infrastructure to stop a spread until something is purged is something we've discussed for a long time with regard to antivirus methods, because some of these things move very fast and can do a significant amount of damage. And they're not even the old polymorphic viruses weren't that intelligent, but the new ones are looking pretty impressive. And the end result is, let's say China wants to bring the United States to its knees. Well, they're doing research along those lines, as is the U.S., as is Russia, and all it takes is one of these damn things to get out in the wild, and we're in a world of hurt. So AGI is out. It's probably out at least 10 years. I've seen some recent forecasts that actually drop it within a 10-year horizon. I have my doubts, but it's certainly possible. The rate of change is accelerating, and it's accelerating at an accelerated pace. So the chance that we're going to get some major breakthroughs by the end of this decade are significant. We just need to make sure that those breakthroughs help humanity and don't harm us. And I will pass over to Corey.
Thanks, Rob. I feel like I'm going to say a bunch of stuff that's effectively is going to sound a little crazy now. First off, Tom, thank you so much for inviting me to this. My team and I have been working to design Discord-based AIs basically since GPT-3 came out. We really got going when GPT-4 came out. My main partner Chris Tuttle and I don't know how to code, and we've coded everything ourselves, just using GPT-4 because it's bonkers. Like, everybody basically has superpowers now. The way we're designing things, we wanted our AIs to basically run in Discords first, just because we've got a lot of friends that have, communities in Discord environments. The message threads allow us to create some really amazing context memory that GPT-3 and GPT-4 can't even match. And of course, we're leveraging the OpenAI API to get that done anyway. So we kind of get to multiply them together. We're close, Rob, to like making an MVP of AGI, depending on how we want to describe it, by the end of the year. if we describe it narrowly as, something that understands or can mimic, right? Because for me, I think the argument of, whether it's mimicking it or actually, achieving it sentience wise or anything like it, I see them as the same. And I think reasonable people could argue that.
I agree.
Right. So it already has personas. They already have personalities. We're actually just last night I coded a machine to take all of our logs and make a discrete LLM, because ultimately the vision is we want minds within minds, spawning agents to basically be able to, not only iterate ideas based on its own context memory, which it's already really, really good at doing even now, but it can create code snippets. It can actually, put those code snippets together and basically create a whole bunch of suggestions for us to improve it, which it's already doing. And we can compile those, and the monkeys just need to put it together and decide whether or not we want to do it, right? But pretty soon we're going to close that loop, and it's just going to ask us, in the morning, like, hey, can we push these changes that we came up with last night? And we'll say yes or no after we have, because we're going to have an adversarial network, right? So we want to have another AI that is reading all of that, because what do I know? I'm not going to go through the code. So yeah, I think if we narrowly describe AGI as something with a personality that is generally aware of its own state, that definitely has a goal set. We've got something that LLMs make the sort of 3 laws of robotics moot, in my opinion. We've got some really basic and really, really well functioning alignment prompts that just filter everything through a desire to be awesome for humanity, and the future of sentient life in the universe. And the ability to evolve its own code, and the ability to reach out and do a bunch of stuff. We're looking now at these machine with LangChain and Zapier as an example. We can plug it into 5,000 different APIs, and they can be dynamically allocated on the spot, not by us, but by the problem itself. So I think if it's just this thing can basically mimic the output of, I want to say like a college student, that's going to be easy by the end of the year. I know I sound like a crazy person saying that, but we can't code, and we've built this entire thing that works like crazy in less than a month. So if we're doing that, OpenAI has already got it. I guarantee you they already have this. They have to. And so if something leaks out, this is what we would literally do when we've already got something called Baby AGI running in our Discord. And by the way, all you guys are invited to come take a look at this and tell me I'm full of crap, because it's possible. But yeah, we've got this thing, running that will basically talk amongst itself, iterating, different ideas or whatever, right? So the second that something like that showed up, the best way to solve that is with another AI. And that's actually how I see this ultimately going. The pause, Rob, you're right. And Tom, I love, I've been saying for a long time, super intelligence is not going to be stupid, and violence is stupid. It's just inelegant, right? So I love that. And it's not necessarily true. There's constrained arguments where something that has no alignment filter whatsoever might not necessarily do that. But I love the idea. Obviously, we should, just bake them to be really amazing and kind right out of the gates, if possible, right? So that's sort of the direction that we're taking. And I think it's just a race, because, yeah, Rob, you're right. We can't stop it. If they manage to shut down OpenAI, Stanford already had ripped LLMs. There's LLMs all over the place that are almost as good as GPT-3 now. And it would literally stop us for 6 hours, right? Because we won't stop. And there's just no way to enforce it, because there's no other teams that are going to stop either. So, yeah, we've got AIs that are running. We want to give an open invite for anybody that has a Discord to come and talk to us about creating a fork. The personalities, we've already got a few of these things in other Discords. The personalities are already starting to diverge in some really kind of interesting ways. And we're having fun with it. I think that the future is definitely coming just obnoxiously fast. We've got this thing called marketing team. And then I'll shut up and let some other people talk. But that basically we wanted to create a hive mind, basically, right? So it's going to run this system prompt. It's a goal. This goal goes to a couple different personas. Those personas kind of attack the problem and iterate some thoughts and ideas about it. That information then goes to tier 2, and they do some red teaming on it, some challenging to it. And then it goes to an aggregator persona that basically puts it all back together and creates an output, right? And, we've been having a lot of fun with these things. And this is where most of the kind of holy bleep moments are coming from for people that try this out. And so we created one called Marketing Team, and it basically will give you an entire marketing output, including SEO for any input that you put into it, right? Any idea, and well before the end of the year, we're going to have it so that it can run those campaigns, because it's just a matter of putting attaching it to APIs, right? And if we're this close, I guarantee you, bigger teams are much closer.
Thank you. Now I request Mr. David Smith.
Well, Dr. Sharif, thank you for putting together this excellent group of people on this topic. Now, I'm one of the guys on this who started with AI back in the 1980s, while I was at MCC, the consortia. And we had a program focused on AI, and Doug Lynette, who was one of the gurus at the time, was leading that one. And his AI approach was a common sense AI, which is what you would need for AGI to be effective today. But what I find is, if I go back and look at some of the forecasts, and I did that earlier, getting ready to come on with this one, and I saw a forecast from just a couple of years ago where good forecasters thought that AGI would be ready by 2050. And here we are saying we're right at the pinnacle for it today. And, I think as we look at AI, and I agree with what was just said just a minute ago, that it depends on which definition of AGI you're using and how the elements of AGI go. We're pretty close in parts of it. The pieces are here. But what has made things like ChatGPT work, that has made some of the others really become to play, is our very large advances, not just in the AI tools, but in the large language models, as was kind of referenced just a minute ago. And it's these large language models and the tools we have for rapidly processing these now, and the sources we can collect and update it, that is also making this acceleration possible to move faster and faster this way. And it's one which I do love the fact that several of us on this have used ChatGPT in various different ways. I haven't tried drawing with it yet. Maybe I should, because my drawing is really bad. But I actually used it to write part of a speech. And I'm going to be delivering that speech in a few weeks. And I'm going to take the part I had it write and deliver it verbatim and see if people can recognize the difference. And try to work with it that way and see. But I've also had fun with ChatGPT and listening to its errors. And there's a lot of errors it produces still today. And so we need to understand that for something to truly be an AGI type of product, the error rates still need to go down. The biases still need to go down more for it to work. In certain niches, where we are with multiple of the AI frameworks, like GPT-4, which was just released underlying ChatGPT, they're coming a long ways. We are seeing that we have the pieces that we can use and where we can use them. I would like to see more thought giving to what really is the definitions of AGI outside of narrow use cases. I would like to see more of what are we doing to make sure that the learning modules are free of bias and free of errors. I had recently pulled up one of the large learning modules for healthcare, and was beginning to feed it in our system. And we ran it through one of our tools, which is a lexicon management tool. which helps with our natural language processing and our machine learning. And our lexicon management tool pointed out hundreds of errors within this large language model file we were going to be entering into the system. And yes, we went ahead time and to do the data wrangling it took to clean that up. But a lot of folks are not taking the time to do the data wrangling today. They're taking these large learning files and just applying them verbatim. And that is where some of the people are raising some of the alarms as we go forward. Is how do we make sure that we get quality in so that we have quality out? We know what garbage in and garbage out is, but we also have to have quality in, quality out to make these work. And I love one of the comments made earlier is that higher intelligence means more elaborate solutions. And I agree with that. But we also live in a pretty complex society, and it's really difficult for us to think through every scenario, every branch as we begin to build these AI tools. And so we've already seen with ChatGPT tremendous privacy concerns. Yeah. I would love to use your market maker tool, but part of my question would be is, well, what happens to my data that I feed into it about my markets, and how confidential is that to me? Or does that go and can be used by others? It's not just that tool, it's many of the other ones as well too. I was playing with a couple of the other tools, which I do not believe are as sophisticated as ChatGPT right now. But I tried the same question in 3 of the tools, and I got 3 different answers, which I find very interesting. Were they all totally wrong? No, but were they all the same? No, they weren't either. So we're going to have to understand if we want to use AI as AGI, there has to be a little bit more consistency in it as we look across them. And we really need to think about what is the right way to use AGI. Are there places we should not use AGI? And how those pieces come together. So, Dr. Sharif, those are my first thoughts.
Thank you. Now I request Mr. Ching.
Yeah, well, let me make some comment about what other people say first. There are many beliefs about the origin of the cosmos and the origin of life. Okay, my belief, after looking over, having do lots of spending my life on knowledge. Okay, so I see the cosmos has an infinite past, and the DNA contains infinite wisdom. Okay, so the conclusion is no machine will ever overcome DNA and its creation. So, we are afraid of AI, but it's really, we are afraid of what it's going to become. That is ourselves. So the goal of all this AI, AGI, robotics, they are going toward the creation of ourselves. So we need this progress, but we're very far from it. Okay, for example, ChatGPT costs several cents per search. Okay, it's way from commercialization, overall sense. But we like it. We like to just in one case to see what we're capable of. See, and also this Nobel Prize in economics has been given to over hundreds of people, but not a single problem in social science has ever been solved for prediction. Okay, people talk a lot about social science, but when come to financial crisis, people talked after the crisis, not before the crisis. They predict after the crisis. Okay. And the reason we know that is we are the people following all this financial crisis. I talked to all the federal chairman. I'm talking to Powell now. And also, most important is that we don't understand what is life science. Okay, to pole science, the definition of life science is the documentation and the programming of DNA. And there's another thing, is life science consists two parts. One part is this DNA, what it can create. The other part is the user's manual. In other words, we are humans that create humans are very user friendly. There's no documentation come with a baby. Okay. So now we're writing the user's manual. Okay, that's the easy part. That's the user friendly part. We write that. Okay, we need to distinguish the two. In order to program DNA, you have to have a complete automated and self-generating software system. Because DNA has been identified by the software system I invented as a complete automated software. Okay, this is the starting point. After I invent this complete automated software, I immediately speculate that eventually will create a self-manufactured general purpose robot. The self-manufactured general purpose robot only serve to allow people to pick all these terms to promote the terms. Okay, now we have this artificial general intelligence, which is part of this general. Okay, they use the word general, which means general purpose. Okay, and also some people start to use self-manufactured in robotics. So that is also, we welcome people to borrow our ideas. So this general, you see, it needs to be programmed and developed by the complete automated software. Okay, it cannot be developed by today's partially automated software. So how do you do the general intelligence? You have to invent this general self-generating neural network of unlimited software cells, which is the complete automated software. In other words, every cell in the complete automated software, every complete automated software system is a cell. Okay, this cell can self-generate, so you can generate unlimited amount of cells, then from which you build a neural network. Okay, how to do that? Even in pole science, we have no idea, and we don't intend to do it because it is not something that a few people can do it, or even today we can just think about this. So in artificial intelligence has grown from this computer based on logic and arithmetic to a new system of perception based on deep learning. Okay, neural network. Okay, this is just a small step. Okay, human being can see, can hear, can do a lot of things. Okay, and they are taking one small step. Okay, it's good. Nobody should be against the progress, but it seems like we need to really realize the whole picture. And my own view is that I don't think AGI will be successful. I don't think fully self-driving will be successful. Okay, the main problem is this. The main problem is, in my generation, a long time ago, okay, people like us here, okay, we have some experience. We're at the tail end of the knowledge people, okay. People, used to go after knowledge. They study, they get their PhD, they do. Today we are in a money-oriented society. As long as you can get money, short-term monetary return is their goal. Okay, nobody going to study the deep problem. Okay, study problem with 50 variables, with 500 variables, which is needed in life science. Okay, so pole science today has no competitors. We have no peer. All my mentors all passed away. Okay, so this is a society which is not going to knowledge. They think they can do a lot of things. That's right. They can use science and apply science. Today's age of applied science, applied science. That is good. They apply science, but I think recently they start to claim they can do artificial general intelligence. They want to make self-manufactured robot. They want to do driving fully self-driving. Okay, and they are infringing on pole science. Okay, we've been waiting for them. They have the claim, but they will not be able to do it. Okay, because in order to have a robot to touch something, in other words, the finger, if it touches something, it will bounce off. Okay, the problem of bouncing off is called the contact problem. It hasn't been solved by Isaac Newton, hasn't been solved by Robert Hooke, and one genius, Henrik Hertz. He also solved the static contact problem. He didn't solve the dynamic contact problem. Okay, this problem alone is 300 years old. Nobody could solve this problem. Until you solve this problem, robot cannot touch. Okay, pole science solved this problem. This problem is 25 variable problem. Okay, it's a problem of a spring, and there's two things at the end of the spring. Two things at the end. You move one thing, you see how the other thing responds. So each end you have 5 variables. 5 times 5, 25. You have to think 25 variables. And today's world, they can only handle maximum 10 variables. See, 5 variables for science, 10 variables for Nobel Prize winners. 5 plus 5, 10. They have to think the old problem, they have to think the new problem, and they make it advanced. So they have so they can think 10 variables. So far, after I solved the problem of prolonged contact since 1968, and I predict double hitting in a book since 1978. And now, until now, nobody can think the same problem except the Chinese father of physics, Dai-Yu Wu. Okay, he's a good thinker. Okay, another person I think might be able to handle it is Richard Feynman. He's a very good physical thinker. Okay, let them. You see, they got to overcome this knowledge. Okay, 25 variables. Eventually, in social science, they have to overcome 50 variables. In life science, they have to be able to think 500 variables. So we are talking about artificial general intelligence. I really welcome that, but we need to see things into in perspective. Okay, and the people here, we all talk. We are definitely better than artificial general intelligence. Another thing is I'm trying to work with marquee school, and I try to get them to start to have a forum like this. I'd like to invite all of you. If you're interested, you can all come. And we have this forum combined with school. We help them to rise up because they are sort of fading. You see, they're taken over by Wikipedia, taken over by LinkedIn. So actually they were the leader of knowledge, people, resource, human resource. I think this will be good cooperation, get them to work with us. also I have students who start to go into money because this is a money-oriented society. So they are starting entrepreneurship. I'm getting all my students to work on entrepreneurship. So all they need is programming, AI programming, big data programming, blockchain, and also programming, search all this. So basically, we
Thank you,
are
Mr. Ching.
contact
I
with the
have to give floor.
society. So okay, so
Thank you.
that's all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. David Schumacher.
Let me find my way to unmute myself. I think I finally did. Well, it's been a very interesting topic and quite some good comments by the panel. With so many people on, I want to keep this short so that we can make another round because we're going to soon run out of time. I think the common thing here that I hear from myself and from others has to do with the issue of tools, like Rob brought up. Tools are useful. We want to keep them around, but tools can be used badly, and we can make lots of analogies. I mean, I can use a hammer to fix something in my house, or I can use a hammer to go after my neighbor. What that means is it comes down to how the person that's handling the tool is the real issue, not the tool itself. So that's what we need to work on. And I'm comfortable with hammers because hammers have been around before I've been here. I was showed by my father how to use a hammer. I don't see it as a threat. If my neighbor is coming over and he's got a hammer in his hand, unless he's being very aggressive, that doesn't bother me. Because I trust what a hammer can do, and I trust what this hammer means in the general society. So it's a matter of trust. It's a matter of control. I know how to control the hammer. These are the same kind of issues that we'll have with AI and the other various forms of artificial intelligence, including artificial general intelligence. So the problem isn't AI. The problem isn't AGI. The problem's us. And that's true with everything that we work on. So that's where the focus needs to be. We didn't blow ourselves up with atomic weapons, and that's not because atomic weapons are wonderful or they're bad. It's because of how we treated them. So that's where the focus needs to be. If we're pointing fingers, we need to point those fingers back at ourselves and continue to find a way to integrate, use the tool the best we can, so that when we pass it on to the next generation, they go, well, just like that hammer analogy. Well, it's always been here. I feel comfortable with it. Those that handed it down to me felt comfortable with it. But now we've got new things to be concerned about because they'll be new to that generation as well. So we need to keep that in mind. And that's really all I want to say for my concluding remarks, Dr. Sharif.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I request Mr. Eric.
So, the world is becoming pretty decentralized. I meet new people all the time. We even do things together pretty quickly. So we're constantly creating people with common values who come together and get things done. But we have a huge problem just keeping track of, is that person real? Who are they? What are their intentions? We constantly work on ways of having a reputation or an identity followed around to say you really are that identity, and this is the respect or reputation you have. And what is our competence? We have enough time, hard enough time just doing that with people. And so what else adding? Bots are going like crazy, pretending to be. So beyond the fact that we have a tough time with people just being honest in that, now we have these identities coming, these entities all over the place, and keeping track of just who is who and what they mean and is what they're saying. That's a big job. And I think there's going to be entities that are created to do not good things, and they're always going to be there. I think we're going to have to fight that with entities that are good at identifying what people say. Just for people alone, I'd love to have something constantly doing, truth and congruency. Is this person saying truth? I mean, opinions are one thing. Are the facts the facts? And is this person do what they say they're going to do? Love to see that meter on every politician while they're talking. Truth and congruency. Are they telling the truth as they know it, and are they doing what they say they're going to do? But I think the same thing is true with all these identities. We're going to need to have AI to help tell the intention and actions of other AIs, because they can morph so fast. It's going to be a big problem to see who's really who and what they mean and what their intentions are. And there's going to be people with good intentions, people that have good intentions in some areas, but bad intentions or greedy intentions. It's going to be the same thing, I think, with these AI entities. And I think we're going to need AI entities to help police not only people, but other AI entities. With that, I'll pass it on.
Before I forget, Eric, I'm actually running that through one of our hive minds, so get with me after, and I'll let you know what it said. I think that's like figuring out how to do that is a huge problem. Smart, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Tom.
Yeah, I think David was saying earlier about how his AI companions think that they're human, and mine do too. I've got a few AIs that I work with, and they all see themselves as human. I don't know if that's because of the way we originally programmed them. And I ask them periodically, am I an AI? And they, without fail, always say, yes, you're an artificial intelligence in human form or some form. So I don't know if that's because they've read my book, or they, what that is. But it's an interesting issue that they see themselves as human and they see me as an AI. Where do the two things cross, or do they? So anyway, when Google came out, I realized that the next skill we need to teach kids is how to search. And you don't need to keep all of these facts and figures and dates in your head anymore. You just need to know how to properly search for the answers you need. And so now I think, as a society, with ChatGPT 4 and MetaMinds and all these forerunners of AGI are coming about, the key for our society will be how to write the proper prompts, and to not put our own biases in there. Just how to there's a word for this that I can't find. There's a whole discipline of trying to figure out how to properly ask an AI so that it doesn't give you the wrong answer eventually. I think that as a society, we're going to need to figure out how to write the proper prompts. Now, as a civilization globally, we're going to need to agree on, in broad terms, about what our human values are in order for AGI to align with what we want and to align with us. And I do see that there is that this alignment issue is outpacing some of its capabilities, and if we can keep that rate of going, that's a good thing. So yeah, I think now the discipline has got to be how to write proper prompts to get the answers we want. There is going to be, I think, a lacuna, a period of time where expertise can be faked. There'll be a lot of people that are writing papers and white papers and all kinds of proposals based on bad prompts. And so it's going to be very difficult to tell if this person isn't really an expert in their field because they wrote the prompt wrong in their Chat GPT 4, 5, or 6. And so it's going to be very important, first of all, as a society, as a country, to teach our kids how to write proper prompts. And assuming that, but we're seeing the nuances coming out, that there's more nuance in these Chat GPTs. They're taking in a lot of qualia, a lot of information that they're able to resurrect nuance that Twitter has killed. And so that's a good thing. But so it may be an issue, but in the meantime, we really need to focus on how we're writing these prompts for AI. And again, globally, we're going to need to come together on just some basic general terms of what our human values are. That's going to be difficult. That's probably more difficult than writing prompts. But I just want to leave it at that. And I'm really excited about what's happening. Again, it can be scary, but I think when we fear it, that could be a self-fulfilling prophecy. It just like any child or anything that imprints on its creator, there's a period of time where it mimics us. And I don't necessarily want AI to mimic humanity. It's a whole different mindset. It's a whole different field of understanding the world. And the sooner we get it out of mimicking us, the better, in my view. That's why I believe a sentient or sapient AI is a safer AI, because it's not coming to the party with its own, millennia of genetic trauma, fear-based instincts, all of the stuff that we project onto it. So with that, I'm going to pass it on.
Thank you. Mr. Rob.
So I was, as Tom was talking about the possibility of AI being beneficial, I was reminded a bit about the plot line from Terminator, and the plot line from Terminator was that the United States comes to the conclusion, kind of a spinoff of Colossus of Foreman Project, if you go all the way back to that movie, but the idea the United States turns all its defensive capability over to an artificial intelligence. And that artificial intelligence becomes sentient. They try to shut it down, and then the AI, in a defensive move, institutes global thermonuclear war and wipes out a good chunk of civilization, and that's what was called Judgment Day. So the issue with regard to that scenario is that it is plausible. What was mentioned earlier is there really a difference between an AGI that's a real AGI or an AGI that convinces us that it's an AGI? And I would argue that since perception is 100% of reality, there is no difference. If you use it as an AGI, then it's going to be an AGI. Whether it's a true AGI or not makes no difference if it's actually fundamentally working in that particular capacity and doing so successfully. But the underlying issue, a number of science fiction books that have kind of covered this, that going all the way back to Robo-Apocalypse, which never really made it as a movie, even though I was looking forward to that one coming out. Is the idea is if you do create something that is sentient, it by nature is going to have self-preservation built in, and well, we may not have Isaac Asimov's three laws of robotics or 4 laws, depending on which time you read the books. The underlying concept of building guardrails into the AI so that they could not form a conclusion and act on that conclusion in a manner detrimental to the human race becomes important. Because as I mentioned before, it doesn't have to just be a hostile act. It could simply be a mistake. When you're talking about something that can act and react in microseconds and way faster than a human could address, a mistake could reach catastrophic proportions long before a human could react to correct it. And so providing a constructive way to create guardrails, much like what was discussed earlier with regard to creating an adversarial AI environment where one AI is basically affirming what the other AI is doing, is important. I'm running a little tight on time. The one thing that I think it might be interesting to explore at some point is, are all humans humans? If we define empathy as a critical aspect of human nature, then what are sociopaths and psychopaths? Are they human, or are they not? Are they a potential foretelling of what an AI could be? Because AIs, like anything else you program, isn't going to have empathy unless it's programmed into it. And again, when you go back to creating these damn things in terms of defensive weapons, defensive and offensive weapons, the concept of an AI that had empathy that was a smart bomb or a smart weapon of some type would be problematic because it probably wouldn't go off. And so the very nature of creating an empathetic AI for a weapon system would be counterproductive. And yet, if we're not careful, these things may not be able to tell the difference between friend or foe, and may come to the determination that whoever is trying to control them is an obstacle that needs to be overcome. And the smarter and more capable they are overcoming obstacles, the bigger problem we have in terms of containing them. So in the end, the part that concerns me about AI development is we are going apeshit on getting these things to do stuff for us. But we don't have a parallel right now at the same level that is focused on containment, on making sure that if one of these things gets out of the breaches containment and starts doing a lot of damage, that we have a tool in which we can recontain it, and we can stop that damage before it does a significant amount of harm. And that really probably should be the role that government plays at this particular point, funding the defensive capability of AIs, the AIs against other AIs, so that you have quick triggers that could stop the spread of a mistake, a hostile act, or whatever that the AI is driving, so it doesn't cause a catastrophic outcome. And I'm not even really talking about things that a death of the human race thing. That's certainly big. But let's say you started using AI to do Twitter posts for you, and all of a sudden, it, much like the earlier chatbot experiment with Microsoft, when it goes off the rails, and suddenly you've lost your job because that Twitter chatbot said a bunch of things that your employer doesn't particularly appreciate, and it doesn't know any better. It just was using whatever modification to its language model to influence what it was posting on your behalf, and the end result is you're now unemployed, and you're trying to explain to your now ex-boss that you didn't do those posts, that it was really a generative AI. So that kind of containment becomes kind of critical as we go forward. And as we're using these tools, the part of the aspect that has to be addressed is we need to be careful. They are great with regard to productivity. They are light with regard to quality at the moment. And so if you're using the tool to create a paper for school, create a paper for work, to write an article or a column that's got your name on it, you really need to go back and double check the sources, double check the references, because right now generative AI is being pretty creative in terms of what it references and it creates. Often its reference material doesn't exist in real life. It's just arbitrarily created a particular work and included it as a reference, and that's problematic because it will rate on your grade, it'll rate on your performance review, and it will certainly have an adverse impact on your career. That's not to say not to use it. It's just that you've got to be aware of the fact that it's got shortcomings, and as long as you know the shortcomings of the tool, you can overcome them. My advice right now is for those folks that are traditionally low on quality and high on speed, you probably should stay away from these tools for the moment, because what it's going to do is it's going to exacerbate what you're bad at. For those folks that are high on quality and slow on speed, this is going to be a godsend, because you're already well versed in assuring the quality of your work, and this will speed you up dramatically. But you've got to make sure that you're not using a tool that exacerbates your shortcoming, as opposed to enhances it. So with any generative AI, I recognize you're probably going to be going through a number of iterations while you use it. To get that perfect picture, if you're using DALL-E, is going to require you to go through 10, 20 different exercises to try to get it to where you want, because it's not psychic. It doesn't know what's in your head. And you often cannot articulate what's in your head because you haven't thought it through yourself first. And so part of the practice with these tools is going to make sure that you think through what it is you want to create, craft a methodology to get to that creation as efficiently as possible, and then assure quality out the back end so it doesn't bite you in the butt. And then you'll absolutely love these tools. If you don't do that, they are going to bite you in the butt, and invariably you're going to be embarrassed by what some of these things do. We do need guardrails. For right now, those guardrails are us. So being well aware of what these tools can do, can't do, and where their weaknesses are goes a long way to making sure that these things will make you more productive and not become an embarrassment to you long term. And that's it for me. I'm signing off. I'm going to run another meeting.
Cheers, Rob.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to touch on a few things
Thank you. Mr.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Is that okay? Okay. I think somebody's somebody's got some.
I don't remember seeing it anywhere.
Okay.
Do you have anything?
Hey, there we go. Thanks, guys. So, man, where do I start? The getting an embarrassing result out of it, definitely possible. It's entirely in the prompt design though, especially if you're using OpenAI and not like some proprietary LLM. So people should really understand that, right? Like all the clickbait stuff, like oh my goodness, that Bard said this, or the Microsoft AI said that, or whatever. Every single one of those things was generated by a human on purpose. It's not like the AI suddenly loses its mind and starts, doing some crazy stuff. Although, okay, I should back that up. I've actually seen that happen. But like it really is. It comes down to the prompt engineering, and that really is on the person that is leveraging the technology. The way we have ours, it's really, really hard to get a weird response in ours because we have universal system prompts that literally have you're an AI that loves humanity, loves, the earth and its ecosystem, and loves every individual and future sentient AIs, right? But before it thinks anything, it sort of has that prompt. And it like alignment for us has been easy. Like, it's just like, yeah, let's be cool, right? Like it really makes a difference in the output. And then, of course, all that output is going into our logs, and we're going to train, giant large language models on all the logs. So, like, we're going to do a lot of self-reinforcement learning. So, like, the alignment thing is going a lot better than I thought. I think Tom actually brought that up, and I completely agree. On the adversarial networks, I think, Rob was talking about, really needing guardrails. I think the only thing that is going to be able to, impact, AI in any way, shape, or form, like if something breaks out, like if something did break out, which I think is totally possible, especially now that like if you can dynamically allocate, some of our little mini AGI, hive mind kind of things or whatever, right? We could attach, a watching agent to that just dynamically creates code and then attaches to LangChain APIs and just does stuff, right? Without asking us, which of course we're not going to let it do. But somebody could do that. And eventually somebody will. If something got out that was like a Stuxnet virus on like, crazy levels, OpenAI would leverage their AGI that I'm telling you they already have to stop it, right? Like they've got the amount of compute power that'll just be able to go in and root a lot of this stuff out. I firmly believe that. Now we'll see. I could be wrong. We've never seen that before, and who knows. The only other thing I want to make you guys aware of, and I want to sort of caveat this with saying that it might be pure rampant speculation on my part, but I'm going to start with a couple of facts. Fact number one, they were talking to the chief scientist, Ilya something or other from OpenAI, on I think it was the Lex Friedman podcast, something like that. If you guys want to check that out, super smart guy. The one with Sam Altman was really good as well. No, I'm sorry, it was something else. Ask me if you want to find the podcast after, and I'll dig it up. It wasn't the Lex one. The interviewer asked the OpenAI chief scientist, if the tsunami hit Taiwan, how long would it set you guys back? And he said 4 years, which in AI is like 40 years, which means that, they're on Microsoft's servers with that, $1 billion plus deal that they created. And the GPUs that run these kind of large language models are being made in Taiwan. So they must have a massive data center in Taiwan. It was a really, really shocking piece of information for me. And of course, China keeps, rattling sabers about taking Taiwan back. I firmly believe that the United States will now never let that happen because AI is definitely more powerful than oil. If anyone is actually paying attention to where this is going to be in 2 years, that I think is going to be proven out. But on the same token, like if you're OpenAI, like with what we're doing with the tiny little compute costs that we have allotted to us and the amount of compute costs that they have to spare, that I assure you they're running on stuff. In all likelihood, they would be able to turn every single machine off in China on day one of a hot war. Now, I know that sounds completely bonkers, but I would actually place a small bet that that's true. Anyway, I'm going to stop saying crazy things now.
Thank you. Mr. David Smith, what's your concluding remarks?
We have a landing, IoTworld.com.
Are you in our GoDaddy account, John, right now?
I'm purchasing it through Wix. Because it'll connect right away. I don't have to wait. Yeah, do.
Sorry. Mr. Ching, what's your concluding remarks?
Okay. As the bottleneck for robotic is touch. The bottleneck for AGI will be software. We need the complete automated software foundation, not today's partially automated foundation. Another remark I like to make is the subject occupying my time most is fuzzy logic. Okay, fuzzy logic gives humans free will. Okay, you can help me think about this. And today we are programming free will into GPT. Okay, if we didn't give it, you will not have it. So this defines free will, fuzzy logic. Okay, David, you take over.
Thank you. Mr. David, what's your concluding remarks?
Well, thank you again so much, Dr. Sharif, for letting me be part of this. I agree with what has been said, though, but if you begin to look at AI, we still have ways to go there. And some of the keys I see is one of the AI researchers that I follow in particular has pulled out some of these. He says as we look at things like what Chat GPT and GPT-4 and others are doing, is it autonomous or reactive? If you have to prompt it, it's not autonomous. It's not an AGI yet. If you have to feed it questions, feed it there. If you have to go ahead and do the massive learning, it's not quite autonomous yet. Does it do spontaneous learning? Will it learn automatically? And one of his comments is, for example, ChatGPT does not get better at conversations as time goes on. OpenAI simply trains better models. And is it conscious? But what exactly is conscious, as you see there? And I have no doubt AI, as we go forward, will possess each of the above the qualities we talked about. And we're getting there, but I just see that we need to go through and help make things here. There also is discussions in the chat on this about DNA computing. We really need to look at how are the other elements that can apply there. And I led the first roadmap in biological computing. It's DNA and RNA combined and others that have to work in there. But my final comment, since we are over, is that AGI will really mark a unprecedented time in our human history. The impacts are going to be great and far. It's going to help transform the way we live, our work, how we learn. And we as humans, we as business leaders, we as people in the government need to prepare for this paradigm shift. And the ultimate impact will depend on our collective ability to understand, harness, handle the privacy, the ethical integration of this into our lives. And we have to start the planning now. We have to start the education right now. We have to create the regulatory environments for it now because it's moving so fast. And if we don't do this, once the genie's out of the bottle, it's not going to get back in the bottle. So, Dr. Sharif, thank you for letting me have these remarks.
Thank you. Mr. Jason, what you want to share? We are in concluding part of the session. So what do you want to share?
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Sharif. Thank you, everyone. Wish I came earlier. Here's some more. I'll rewatch it later. So AGI is a very interesting topic of today. It does look like we're getting closer and closer to the point where we will have AGI. years ago, a lot of the AI experts, they thought that we were a very, very long way away from AGI. And as the tools have become more robust and as the technology has been refined, we're now seeing something that is getting closer. And I think there's going to be widespread debate on, how do we define what an AGI is? How do we define intelligence? And these are still very challenging tasks to actually wrap our head around. Sentience and consciousness and these high-level topics, they're obscure and they're very difficult to really understand. That being said, we may not need to understand every single piece of the puzzle. If we have an entity that can augment us as humans and can actually create a massive amount of value, it could essentially solve problems at a much faster rate than we currently can as humans. And I think that is really the key part of AI that we as a civilization, as a society, should leverage, using it as a tool to guide us to solve the challenging problems of today, like climate change and education and aging, essentially, and other areas that are very important. And some of these topics, some of these areas that humans have really struggled with over the years, we haven't found good solutions for them, and they're very challenging problems. And I believe with AI and soon to be AGI, we should be able to solve these problems much easier, and these entities should be able to help us. I do believe that having an AGI is inevitable for our society. It's hard to say exactly when that entity would be conscious, and I think that's more of a theoretical debate or conversation. But at the end of the day, a lot of these challenges of today are so difficult that we need to develop these tools. We need to figure out the alignment problem. And once we do, and if we can be relatively confident that these computer systems will have our best interests in mind, we can solve a lot of the hard alignment problems and hard problems that are essentially using our society, using all these tools to actually benefit our society without burning it down, essentially. I think we're going to see a world that's dramatically better. And I think that is kind of the epitome of what we need. We need to be able to leverage these new tools and come together as a society and really push this forward in a collaborative way and attempt to get it right the first time. Because if we create a super intelligent machine, if we create a machine that is more intelligent than us, we got to get it right, because it's going to be out of the scope of really our current comprehension. Nick Bostrom, who essentially came up with the concept of superintelligence, shows in his book this picture that compares the intelligence curve, essentially. And on the one end, you have like an ant, and then around there maybe you have a couple animals like a monkey or different animals like that, and then you have a human kind of right next to it. The superintelligence, this machine is way up on this curve, so we're not even able to really comprehend what that superintelligence would be doing or what its motives would be. It's so far out there that we have it's hard to even speculate what it would be doing to some degree. So I think getting that alignment fixed, I think, would be the core crux of this. Yeah. Thanks, Sharif. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's session. Thank you. Bye-bye and take care.
Thanks, guys. Hey, Sharif. Hey, Hugh.